It was a foggy night. On a street in Germany. I had come to my senses somewhat and noticed that there were people sitting on porches with their lights on and with lights shining, flashlights shining toward me. Then the lights went out. The lights went out, and when I woke up the next morning, I was in a place where I could not even see my hand. I was laying on a metal bench. And a few minutes later, a door, a little window in a door opened up. And the man said, "Please turn around." And I said, "Where am I?" He didn't answer. "What's going on?" He didn't answer. I said, "I'll not turn around. You open this door, and I'll make you think twice." He opened the door, and there was 4 rifles pointed at my head. And I thought to myself, better wait till a more opportune time. So I turned around. They put cuffs on my hands, drew them down to my sides, wrapped the chain around me a couple of times, turned me back around, and he said, "We'll be back in a minute." And he shut the door. Now I'm standing there, can't hardly sit down because of the chains. Still have no idea what's going on. A few minutes later, they opened the door again, and they take a helmet. The helmet come down, completely down over my head, covered my face. It rested on my shoulders. I heard them click on the chain. They pulled on me. I walked. They walked me to this place. And they said, "Now we're going upstairs." So we went up 3 flights of stairs, through a door, and he said, "Now we're going down a few stairs." We went down a few stairs. He said, "Turn left." I turned left. He said, "Walk." So I walked till I hit a wall. He said, "Sit down." I sat down. They removed the helmet. I looked and I saw what seemed to be a courtroom, none like I'd ever seen before. The judge came in, the lawyers came in. They were all way down at below me. Then a whole row of people filed in that sat over on one side. And the judge said, called me by name, said, "Is this your name?" I said, "Well, bully for you." I said, "Could you do me a favor and count to 3, please?" "What's that got to do with anything?" I said, "I just want to see if you got any brains." He ignored me completely. The guard standing beside me hit me on the shoulder. He said, "No disrespect." I said, "Kiss my you know what." They got about 10 people to come up there and talk. Couldn't understand a word they were saying because they were all in German. Kept calling me a name, and I finally asked him, I said, "What does that name mean?" He said, "It means strong man." I said, "What am I supposed to have done?" He said, "You were supposed to have turned over 14 automobiles looking for somebody." I said, "Oh." They took me back. They told me that they'd go back the next day and it would be a trial. Went back the next day. They held the trial. They went back the next day. They passed sentence of 5 years. And when they passed sentence of 5 years, they took me over to a table, laid my hand out, and that's where these dots came from. They stood for the 5 years. Then the next day they took me to what I thought, well, it was a prison, but they took me to a place and there was hardly nothing there. There was just a little bitty building. You walk inside that building, you open up a door, you go down steps, probably 3 or 4 stories straight down steps. And that's where I stayed for a year. I was supposed to be there 5 years. I had to do some things in that prison that I did not want to do, but I had to do it in order to survive. There were other Americans in there, but they capitulated to what the Germans wanted them to do. I didn't capitulate. And after taking care of about 7 people, they called me in. I said, "Look, you leave me alone, I'll leave you alone. As long as I have breath in my body, you try to do something to me, I will kill you." That's just the same, just all there is to it. That's the end of it. That's over. It. From that day until the day that I got out of there, a year later, they never bothered me. A year later, they said I had a visitor. I didn't know who in the world it would be because I didn't know that the Army knew where I was at in any way, shape, or form. I just knew I was going to have to do whatever I could to make it home once I got out of there. But my captain came and told me, he said, "You're a hard man to find." He said, "But I'll be back in a week and get you." And a week later he came back, presented them the papers. They turned me over to him. That was a long, long year. I knew that what I was doing in Germany was for the betterment of my country. But while I was in that prison, I knew that for the betterment of me, I had better act, and I did act. So, there's a story. Y'all take care, and I'll see you again. Bye-bye.